They think they know everything. Hard to tell them anything. They don't like listening. You try to give them some information and they say, oh, I already know that. And you're trying to give them advice because you have lived life and you know the rigors and the ups and downs of life. Try to tell young people that in the beginning of their lives. Try to help them. But because they know everything, it's very difficult to get through to them. Hard for you to give them the advice that you want to give them to help them because you already have experienced it. You've lived it already. You want to tell them this is the way that you need to go to avoid the pitfalls. Yes. And if you listen to me, I can help you, but it's like trying to get through a thick wall. They won't listen. Talking, talking, and talking, and talking. You know, as Christians, in many ways, we have the same problem. God sometimes has to try to get through to us. Sometimes He uses drastic means to get through to us. Tell us something. Get our attention. To reach us. He wants to move into our hearts and our minds to see who we are and what it is and what we're to do with our lives. You see, as believers, we have been created to worship God. And the life of Christ should be lived in us, not just on Sundays, but on 7 days out of the week. It is a commitment to worshiping God. Yes. Not on one day out of the week, but every day of our lives. It's difficult. Because we live in a culture, we live in a world where the aspect of our lives daily interfere with worshiping God. It interferes with what we have to do. And so, trying to be committed to Him 7 days a week is difficult. But He wants that from us. He wants a type of worship in which our lives are dedicated to Him, that they're sacrificed for Him. He wants us to be people who are committed to Him through Monday through Saturday. Not just for an hour and a half or 90 minutes on Sunday. He wants us to be hungry for Him. Passion for Him. He wants us to be in communion with Him through prayer. You see, what God is trying to get through to us is just not a legalistic relationship, but a personal relationship. Connection. He wants a worship that's not just mechanical, but sincere. But not only sincere, listen to this, sacrificial. He wants S&S worship. Sincere, sacrificial worship. He wants our worship to be, that's not worship in which we are just doing something just to be doing something. But He wants our hearts in it. Amen. Thoughts in it. He wants all of you. Every aspect of you. He wants the depth of who you are. Because God is that type of a person. He's interested in the inside. You know, we live in a culture where the world is interested in the outside. You know, you turn on the TV, the magazines on the computer, they have the images of people, and they're thin, they're beautiful, they have this great look. You know, you don't see anybody on there looking like me. Overweight, balding, chubby hair. You see, they have the perfect people. Because the world is interested in that which is perfect on the outside. But God's not interested in that. Amen. He's interested in you, the internal part. He's interested in your soul. And so the type of worship that He wants from you is a committed soul worship. Sincere. Where you are giving up yourself as sacrificial. And God's trying to get through to people. And sometimes He brings issues in our lives to wake you up, to try to get through to you. Because what? He's trying to get through to you, but he can't reach you. He's trying his best to get through to you. Sometimes He brings difficulties in our lives. Sometimes great financial difficulties to people. He brings health issues. Sometimes to wake people up. Trying to get through to you. Talking to you. He's like knocking on your door. Anybody home? And God just doesn't try to just put you in slavery and put a wrap around your neck and drag you to make you do something. He wants sincere. He wants it to be from your heart. He wants you to want to do it. Amen. To want to commit. Mm-hmm. To want to love Him. From your heart. Mm-hmm. My friends, what then brings that type of worship? What type of worship when God requires the sacrificial work, or the sincere worship? Where does that come from? Mm-hmm. How is that achieved in your life? That you are sacrificing you, yourself, your body, your time. Mm-hmm. Some of us, we're just too busy to give God that kind of worship. We're too busy with our lives. We're too busy with issues going on that the 45 minutes that He requires out of one day, out of the week. This is too hard. You know, it isn't too hard for people to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and prepare to go to work 8 to 9 hours a day. That's not hard. Notice how hard it is. The 45 minutes. One day on Sunday. Boy, Sunday's the time I get the best sleep. It took me forever to get up this morning. I must have hit the snooze about 4 times before I finally crawled out of that bed. Hard. My nature within me is difficult to struggle of moving my mind and my body to structurally move out of that bed. But notice that God doesn't want you to do something out of force. He doesn't force you. He wants you to want to do it. To want to make the sacrifice. To be sincere. Amen. You know, you don't want me to be forced to love you, Angel. Put a gun to your head, well, you better love me, Pastor Boy. You don't know that. You better love me. I said, well, okay, I guess I do love you. You can't put it that way. But he wants sincere. What brings sincere sacrificial worship? What is it that God is trying to do? You know that God had to do that before with His people? To try to get them to understand what He wanted from them? Because He kept trying to talk to them. You see, in our text this morning, Israel had a problem that God was trying to get through to them. And they would not listen to God. He was trying to tell them what He wanted to say to them. Sometimes they have, when they do evaluations of children, and children are trying to tell their parents something, and they don't have the words to get through to them. God had the words to get through to His people, but He just couldn't get through to them. They wouldn't listen. So He sent a prophet by the name of Micah to speak to His people. And you can imagine Micah going to the nation of Israel, as they were a nation that had a great deal of wealth at this particular time. I believe it was during the administration of Ahaz, the king. And Micah was a prophet that prophesied both to the northern and to the southern kingdoms. He prophesied to the people and said, God's been trying to get through to you. He's been trying to reach you. He's been trying to talk to you. And it seems like you won't listen to Him. And Micah's an interesting and creative prophet. And he says, God says He's going to talk to you in a different way. Since you don't want to listen to Him, He's going to talk to someone else. He says, God has let me be very frank with you. He says, God has a lawsuit against you. Isn't it amazing? God has a lawsuit against His people.